Your Marketing Plan tab will be one of the most exciting and challenging parts of your control panel plan. When you receive your control panel, it will be pre-populated with all of your existing marketing activities and budgets. The ultimate goal of your marketing plan is found at the bottom right here. It is to have your marketing-generated revenues equal your budgeted revenues. This person's goal is to grow from last year's actual revenues of $925,000 to just over $1.1 million this year. How his marketing must perform to make this growth happen is what we are about to figure out. With that goal in mind, we will start at the top and work our way down as we define your marketing plan's inputs, your budget, lead generation, revenue generation, and payback. We will start with the inputs. He has two existing revenue streams, existing business clients and his existing personal clients. He counts on the vast majority of these clients repeating every year. These repeat customers will account for most of his revenues this year, but they cannot, of course, be counted on to hit this year's growth target. The first thing he will do with his trainer is to begin populating these inputs. I will quickly define each input, but to further understand what each input is, move your cursor over any cell with a little red triangle in it, and a pop-up box will appear that also defines that input. The first two inputs are his lead to presentation conversion rate and his presentation to sale conversion rate. Existing clients are different than prospects because they don't generally consider them leads and they may not require presentations. This man's clients repeat automatically and do not need presentations, so we will leave both of these conversion rate cells blank. The recurring probability input is only for new leads, not existing customers, so we will leave this blank as well. As you will be able to read in this recurring probability description, it is used only for new leads, not existing customers. If your existing customers must be resold each time you serve them, you will need to add these two conversion rate inputs. Just put the percentage of your existing clients that when they call, you generally get to do a presentation. If your company does not ever do presentations, as in retail for instance, you would just put 100% in this cell, and you would put the percentage here of your typical close rate after doing a presentation. Next is recurring frequency. His business clients use his service on a quarterly basis for various purposes. By clicking on this cell and then clicking on the drop-down menu here, we have an opportunity to select various recurring frequencies for his clients, from monthly, every other month, every quarter, or every 6 months. Or we leave it blank if customers only purchase once per year or less. If your customers repeat less often than 6 months, but more often than annually, just select the 6-month option because any recurring frequency greater than 6 months will, at most, only repeat twice throughout the same calendar year. The monthly attrition rate is the rate that his existing customers will go away. As you will be able to read in the definition of the monthly attrition rate, it only applies to your existing customer base and not your new customers. He has budgeted a 1% per month attrition for his personal accounts. This means that he expects about 12% of his existing customers to go away each year, but he expects his business customers to stay twice as long, so he puts in a 0.5% monthly attrition rate for them. This will be a difficult number to get to for most companies, so just guess as best you can. Since all customers will go away eventually, even by death or by moving away, we do want to account for some level of attrition. His next input is average initial sale. Since we are reviewing his existing customers, he does not need to plan for an initial sale since his initial sale is already in the past, so he left this input blank. His next input is average repeat sale. Once again, these inputs are different for his business customers and his personal customers. This next input is his existing customer count. He has an existing customer base of business and personal customers as we have identified. When inputting these existing customer counts, it is important to consider only the active accounts that you have served in the last year. Your financial accounting software may produce a report for how many customers you have served in the last 12 months by category. Be as accurate as possible here since you will want to know how much new marketing you must do to close the gap we discussed at the bottom regarding revenues you can count on from repeat customers and how many new revenues you must create from this year's marketing efforts. The last input is his gross margin. The gross margin defaults to the gross margin on his budget tab, as you can see here. But since each marketing activity might target a different offering that might be more or less profitable than his average company gross margin, he has the flexibility to change it for each marketing activity. If you will be marketing different offerings, you can perform a quick gross margin analysis by taking a typical job in each of your offerings and breaking it down like this. Let's say a typical job is $100. You have production expenses of $40 and a sales commission of 10%, or $10. This makes your gross margin for that service on average 50%, which you would put here for each marketing activity that will focus on that offering. We're going to repeat these inputs with a new activity so you can see how he has to think through the inputs for an activity he has not performed before. He is considering a pay-per-click online marketing campaign. He is focusing his campaign on expanding his more profitable business client base. As you can see, when a client of his refers his service, 80% of the time that person comes in for a presentation. He believes that when someone calls his office who has just been doing a web search for his service, his ability to get them in for a presentation will likely be half of that of a referral. He also believes that due to the cold nature of the prospect, his presentation to sale conversion rate will be a third less than that of a referral. However, once they become a customer, he expects that their recurring probability will be the same as all of his other business customers. You can also see that he expects them to recur at the same quarterly rate. Since attrition rate only applies to the attrition of his existing customer base, it will not apply here. His initial fee to set up a business account is $800, and then he expects to charge $545 per quarter thereafter. And since these are new customers that he is targeting, there is no existing customer base to input since he's already accounted for his existing business customers up here. And he also expects his gross margin to be about the same. As we scroll down, we will put in a budget for his pay-per-click campaign of $1,500 per month. He could choose any pattern of investing that he wants throughout the year, such as increasing his investment over time, decreasing it every other month, or even starting and stopping it completely. You will develop your own investment strategy. The next section below the budget is the lead generation. What we are going to do next is look at what would be required for his pay-per-click campaign alone to close the gap between his forecasted revenues and his marketing-generated revenues. We want to know how many leads he must create throughout the year to close the gap and see if that number of leads is realistic given the type of marketing he is considering. This is how we do that. We start by putting a random number in the first month's cell and then copying that number over the course of the year. The easiest way to do this is to put an equal sign in the next month and click on the first month's cell. When you hit enter, the number in that previous cell will be copied into that cell as well. Then we copy that simple formula across the rest of the year. Now every time we change the number in the first month's cell, the entire year will change at once. As we scroll down to the revenues created for his pay-per-click campaign, we see that 25 leads per month is nowhere near enough to close the gap, but it has proven to be modestly profitable. We then keep testing more leads until we can see here that it requires 95 leads per month, or over 1,100 leads per year, to close the gap between his forecasted revenues and his marketing-generated revenues. You can also see that if he does create these 95 leads per month, his investment pays him back over $65,000 after his marketing investment, which is a 365% return on his investment. He must now consider if a $1,500 pay-per-click campaign will indeed create 95 leads per month. This will consist of multiple factors, such as the price he must pay for each click, the market he is targeting, and his offer and message. This is where we would highly recommend that he would speak with one of our marketing specialists who has expertise in these areas. The specialist would also be able to guide him with his conversion rates and other inputs as well. Most marketing campaigns have too many variables to consider for business owners to make these decisions without some expert help. We do provide another online marketing training video titled Marketing Search Engine Marketing. This tab considers another important variable, such as your website visitor to lead conversion rate. We must always remember that the revenues created are driven by the inputs that we have up above. There is always a temptation to force a projected campaign to be profitable by adjusting your inputs beyond what might be considered reasonable estimates. It's human nature to want to see success and to keep adjusting the inputs until it works out the way we want it to. When planning your marketing campaigns, when you do not have experience in the activity, it is always wise to get insight from experienced people, or at least consider the most conservative inputs. Wanting to be as prudent as possible, he will lower his pay-per-click leads to a more conservative number and then begin adding more marketing activities with budgeted investments and realistic lead generation until he closes a gap in a way that he, his trainer, and the specialist feels is doable given his growth ambitions and the resources that he has to invest. But how low can he go on his pay-per-click leads? When planning for a new marketing activity, it is always a good idea to discover what your break-even point is for your lead generation given the budget that you're going to commit. In this case, you can see that when we input 21 leads per month, his payback falls to 0, or what we call his break-even point. This makes it plain to everyone that unless he can generate 21 leads each month and do so pretty quickly, his marketing will not earn back his original investment this year. As we have described above, it will be tempting to adjust up your inputs to lower your break-even point. Allow your trainer and your marketing specialist to keep your input assumptions in check. Scrolling back to the top, we will look at one more component of this tab. There are 3 more boxes of information: the average annual cost per lead excluding recurring customers, and his average annual cost per lead including recurring customers. The definitions for these terms can be seen by putting your cursor over the cell with the red triangle. The cost per lead that excludes recurring customers identifies the cost of a lead given all his inputs so far, but does not consider the repeat purchases by those customers. It purely considers the upfront cost of attracting a new customer. This is the best analysis when you've got to create customers fast before you run out of your marketing budget. The cost per lead that includes recurring customers identifies the cost per lead considering that the new customer could come back and purchase a number of times throughout the year. This naturally drives down the cost per lead since he does not have to re-earn those recurring customers. This information provides the longer view of the cost of a customer. However, this calculation only considers customers that recur in the present year. Their cost could drop much lower if you consider the life of the customer. The next box tells us the anticipated planned customer count at year end. You can see here that he starts with 649 existing customers. But given the combination of his repeat customers and his monthly attrition rate, you can see his planned customer count at year end will grow to 679.